Welcome to EPG Pathshala. In this module, we will learn about the coastal zone and coastal processes. So let us first come to the learning objectives of this module. We will first learn about the coastal zone and its significance. Then we will discuss about the processes that govern coastal configurations like waves, tides, currents and other processes. Then we will go on to discussing about the erosional and depositional processes and the resultant common features and landforms. Then we will discuss about the type of coast, the basis of their classification and characteristics of Indian coast. At the last, we will discuss about the coastal protection measures. So now we will first start with the coastal zone. The line of contact between the land and water is called shoreline that fluctuates with waves and tides. The contact zone between the land and the sea is termed as coast and shore. Now these two terms are generally used interchangeably, but there are some differences. The term shore or shore zone is used for part of the land sea interface between the extreme low and extreme high tide levels, and the term coast is used to indicate a strip of land that may include the shore and some areas extending seaward and landward of the shore. Shore is further divided into several zones such as offshore, near shore, foreshore and backshore. First we will discuss about the offshore. Offshore extends to the shallow bottom seaward of the breaking waves. Near shore is the zone between low tide level and breaker zone. Foreshore is the intertidal sloping zone between the low tide level and the limit of high tide level or storm wave effects. Backshore is the zone landward of the foreshore that is inundated only during large storms and includes beaches, cliffs or dunes. Coastal zone is a broad area that includes the portion of the sea where physical, biological and biogeochemical processes are directly affected by land and also the portion of the land that influences the sea. Now, why do we need to study coastal zones? Coastal zones are significant because they are highly dynamic in nature due to constant interactions of hydrosphere, lithosphere, atmosphere and also biosphere that continuously shape it. Coastal zones support important ecosystems such as seagrass, mangroves and coral reefs that are known for their very high ecological diversity and also as a nursery ground for a variety of organisms. Coastal zones contribute substantially to the global economy. They are also known as the areas of high population density and growth and hence witness intense anthropogenic activities leading to changes in the land use and land cover features and also receive high influx of land based pollution and dissolved nutrients. Let us now discuss about the processes that govern coastal configuration. The term coastal process refers to all the activities that take place at the coast. The coastal processes are effective in narrow vertical zone near sea level and hence are responsible in shaping landforms within the zone limited by extreme tide limits. Present day configuration of coast is a result of not only the processes that are in action today, but also the processes which were active in the past. Coast is shaped by several individual processes such as tidal, wave, subaerial, biological processes which work either simultaneously or in some sequence. As mentioned earlier, configurations of coast is not constant, rather it is highly dynamic and is constantly changing according to the nature of the material and the energy changes. According to an estimate of the coastal processes of the world coast, about 45% are wave eroded, 36% are glaciated, about 11.7% are wave deposited and the rest have formed mainly due to river, wind or biological activities. So now we will first learn about the waves. The seawater is constantly on motion due to waves, tides and currents. Waves are considered as a major source of energy in majority of the coasts and hence most important agent in shaping up the coast. Waves are undulations of sea water having well defined crests and troughs. Difference between the crest and trough is called wave height, and the distance between two crests or troughs is called wavelength. The time between two successive wave crests to pass a fixed point is called wave period or wave period of time. Let us now see how the waves are formed. Waves are produced by action of wind. Wind disturbs water body as it exerts frictional drags on the surface water particles of more or less flat body of water. It results in setting up small orbital motions of water particles in the water, with the largest ones near the surface and decreasing with the depth. Wind pressing on the back of a developing wave makes it steeper, and gradually the waves grow bigger. When wind blows strongly for many hours, it increases height of the waves. Size of waves is governed by wind velocity, duration of the wind, and the fetch. And the fetch is the distance of open water surface over which the wave generating wind blows. When the wind is strong, wave stiffness, that is the ratio of wave height to wavelength, increases, and when it is not strong, the wave stiffness decreases. If the wind is stronger, it will blow longer, and when the fetch is greater, the wave will be more powerful, as in the case of storm waves. So, length of the fetch is the limiting factor in wave development. Now, we will see how waves are modified near the coast. Waves are generated in open coast and travel to coast when they break against the land. Wavelength, velocity of the waves, and the wave period are the three closely related parameters that modify waves. When waves reach near coast, shallowing of water depth and irregularities of the shoreline result in change in form and mechanics of the waves. The waves slow down, but the wave period remains same. Wavelength is shortened, but the wave height increases, and this result in increase in wave stiffness. The wave stiffness keeps increasing until it becomes so steep that it breaks. The zone where the waves break is called breaker zone or surf zone. In the breaker zone, the wave force is translated up the beach, due to which the water is thrown up the beach, that is called swash. The water which drains down the beach under the influence of gravity is called backwash, which is either in a sheet flow or as a rip current. The initial movement of water in a wave is circular. However, when waves move towards coast, water moves forward on the crest and backward in the trough. That changes its circular form to elliptical. Wave stiffness is an important factor responsible for making waves either constructive or destructive. Three types of changes may occur to the wave direction, like wave reflection, wave refraction, and wave diffraction. When waves approach a uniformly sloping coast at right angles to the shore, they break simultaneously, and all the waves strike the shore in straight parallel lines. When the breaking waves hit a cliff or sea wall, water in motion impinges against the structure and the waves are reflected. When waves approach coast, they are also subjected to refraction and or diffraction. Waves refract when waves approach shoreline that consists of headlands and bays at an angle, and each wave impinges on the shallow sea floor before the rest of the wave, that results in slowing down of the section of the wave opposite the headlands, but the section of the wave facing the bay moves shoreward at higher velocity, that is still at some distance away from the shore. So, this relative difference in velocity leads to progressive bending of wave crest parallel to the shoreline, and this is known as wave refraction. It causes the wave crest to converge on the headlands and diverge on the bay, as you can see in this figure. When waves approach a barrier obliquely, it results in diffraction of waves, leading to shadow zone in the lee of the barrier. Waves also diffract when a segment of wave crest passes in river mouth or bay. The currents generated within bays and harbors by diffracted waves erode and transport sediment until the shoreline fits the diffraction pattern. As in this figure, the wave diffraction is seen in the form of parallel wave crest in the North Sink Island in Andaman and Nicobar. Now, let us discuss about the tides. The rhythmic Periodic rise and fall of the seawater is called tide, which is caused by gravitational pull by moon and the sun on ocean. Tidal processes are found more dominant on the coast, characterized by estuaries or other embayments. The coast can be categorized based on tidal range. They are categorized into megatidal, macrotidal, mesotidal and microtidal. Megatidal regions have a tidal range of more than 6 meter. Macrotidal regions have a tidal range between 4 and 6 meter. Mesotidal areas have a tidal range between 2 to 4 meter, and where the tidal range is less than 2 meter, they are called microtidal regions. Tidal movement is affected by change in the declination of the moon and the sun, distance from the earth to the sun and the moon, and position of moon and the sun in relation to each other and to the earth. Based on the period of rise and fall, we can categorize tides into diurnal and semi-diurnal. Diurnal tides occur once a day during the lunar day. Semi-diurnal tides recur twice during the lunar day. Tidal range and topography of the coast determine velocity of tidal currents, which dominate the water movements, particularly in bays, estuaries and tidal channels. In estuaries, flow is of two types: tidal currents, which are the most important physical process, and residual currents, that are chemical or diffusive processes due to the differences in the density of fresh water and salt water. After the waves and tides, let us now discuss about the currents. Currents are mass movements of ocean water in a continuous flow. They are largely generated due to surface winds, but can also be created by tides, difference in the density of water, gravity and Earth's rotation. Currents are generally categorized into surface currents and deep water currents. Surface currents make up about 10% of the ocean, whereas deep water currents make up about 90% of the ocean. Currents normally move in a specific direction and aid significantly in the circulation of the Earth's moisture, the resultant weather and water pollution. They are major control on the supply of offshore energy, influencing wave dimensions, supply of sediments and also biotic factor in coast. Two broad types of currents are recognized near coast. One is a sail circulation system that consists of currents flowing parallel to the coast and rip currents, and longshore currents that are generated by waves flowing at an angle to the coast. A rip current is a narrow current of water that is generated by movement of water returning back to the sea from beach. It is caused by shape of the shoreline and the current runs perpendicular to beach. Rip currents move along the surface of the water and not underneath the water's surface. Height of shoreward moving waves varies in direction to the shore, causing longshore flow of water from the location of the highest breakers to that of lowest breakers. Further, presence of troughs in the surf zone parallel to the shore facilitates the longshore movement of water, and the water reaching the lowest breakers return to sea as strong currents, thus creating the rip currents. The water returned to sea through rip currents is moved back shoreward again, completing the circulation. So, this circulation of longshore and rip currents is influenced by bottom topography. Depending upon bathymetry, different segments of the wave reach the beach at different time interval, causing slowing down of the segments. This results in bending of the wave, causing it to conform to the general shape of the coast. Waves coming oblique to the beach also create longshore currents. As you see in this figure, longshore currents as a result of waves hitting the coast at low angles, thus drifting the sediments in direction of the movement. Besides waves, tides and currents, there are several other processes that govern coastal configuration, like wind processes, fluvial processes, biological processes, hill slope and glacial processes. Now, coming to the wind processes, waves associated with storm also influence coast. The locally generated wind waves are also significant. Rivers bring fresh water and sediment, hence their role is important, particularly in estuaries and deltas. The sediment are an important addition to the coastal sediment budget, which are significant for shifting of beaches and dunes. Biological processes are dominant on many coasts as plants trap sediments and also help in binding them. For example, on the coastal dunes, mangrove coast, algal mats, etc. Another very good example is the coral reefs, which are the landforms generated by almost entirely by organisms. Another most influential factor is human, who can drastically modify a coast. Impact of human activities on coast is now well documented. The nature of slope and the material it consists of could vary greatly from one place to another, hence affecting the generation and movements of materials. Similarly, processes associated with ice and frost may also affect coastal configurations. However, these actions are restricted to high latitude coast. Now, we will discuss about the erosional processes and the resulting landforms. Erosion on coast depends on factors such as nature of coast, nature of rock, presence of joints and fissures in the rocks, presence of rock particles with waves, chemical action of seawater and also wave strength. Mechanisms of coastal erosion are corrosion, corrosion or abrasion, attrition, hydraulic action, shock pressure of breaking waves. Some of the common coastal erosional features include cliff and notch, wave cut or wave built terraces, headland, cave, blowhole or and stack, as you see in these two figures. Now, we will discuss about the mechanism of transportation. The eroded materials, for example, sands, silts, gravels, pebbles, cobbles and even boulders are transported by waves and currents. These materials are again picked up by breaker waves or surf currents that bring the materials back to the coast. So, the material is transported from coast to seaward and from sea to coastward. Majority of the transportation takes place by movement at the bottom and the surface is continuously modified. Longshore currents also transport the materials, but parallel to the shoreline. Transportation takes place by suspension, rolling, sliding, saltation and solution as in the case of rivers. The materials are sorted by the seawater as it carries and transports them. The finest particles are carried away farthest and the coarser particles are left behind on the beach. The materials in solution are carried farther off either by reacting among themselves or by organisms, animals and plants that extract some of the dissolved matter to build their shells and tissues. Now, we will discuss about the depositional processes and the resulting landforms. The transported materials are deposited either in shallow waters near the shorelines, in continental shelf and slope or in deep seas on the floor of the deep oceans. Some of the common depositional features are beach, spit and tombolo, bars and barriers, tidal flat and marsh, mangrove swamp, coral reefs, coastal dunes and delta. In these figures, you see beach, spit, barrier island and mangrove swamp, and in the second figure you see tombolo with that is connecting the tide island located in lower center with another island in the north. Now, coming to the tidal flat and marsh. Tidal flat is not actually flat, rather a very gently sloping sandy or muddy area that is exposed during low tide and inundated with water during high tide. Salt marshes are the flat wet tracts which are located in the upper intertidal area and flooded by seawater during high tide. As you see in this figure, mangrove swamps, sandy and muddy tidal flats and creek. Coral reefs are the biological structures that are primarily built by corals and algae along with a number of organisms. Corals grow in a specific environment in colonies and together build huge structures. Three types of coral reefs are generally identified. The fringing reef that grow next to land, barrier reef that are found at some distance away from the coast and separated by a shallow lagoon. For example, the largest barrier reef is the Great Barrier Reef. And the third type is atoll, which are near circular or elliptical reefs that are characterized by the presence of a central lagoon, as you see in this figure. Coastal dunes are best developed in the areas of wide beaches with abundant supply of fine sand and presence of low vegetation at a short distance back of the beach along with strong wind. The sediments brought by river at estuary may get deposited at the mouth of the river where it enters sea. The shape of such deposits generally resembles Greek letter delta, hence such features are called delta, as you can see in this figure. Now, we will discuss about the types of coast and the basis of their classification. There are several parameters on the basis of which the coasts are classified. One of the basis is the sea level fluctuations with respect to land, and the coasts are classified as shorelines of submergence, shorelines of emergence, neutral shorelines and compound shorelines. On the basis of shoreline maturity and the nature of agency, coasts are classified as primary or youthful coast and secondary or mature coast. On the basis of energy environments, the coasts are classified as storm wave environments that are characterized by frequent destructive storm breakers. Then the swell environments that are characterized by flat constructive waves, and protected environments which are characterized by low energy conditions. On the basis of plate tectonics, coasts are classified as collision coast, which are active margin of a continent, trailing edge coast, which are passive side of a continental plate, and marginal sea coast, which are separated from open ocean by island arcs. Based on the different characteristics of Indian coast, Ahmad in 1972 had classified Indian coast into several different types, which are Andaman and Nicobar type, deltaic coast type, depositional plain type, Malabar type, Maharashtra type, Gujarat type and Kathiawar coast type. Now, lastly, we will discuss about the coastal protection measures. To protect coast and coastal structures from erosion, several types of structures such as seawall, breakwater, groin and jetties are constructed. These structures act as sediment trap. Sea walls are an embankment of concrete, boulders or other materials. The sea walls either have concave face to deflect the force of the waves or sloping ramp that helps to dissipate wave energy. Sea walls of the Mundra port, Gujarat is seen in this figure. An offshore wall constructed parallel to shoreline to break waves is called breakwater. It is generally used to protect a harbor from waves and currents, as you can see in this breakwater of Gangavaram Visakhapatnam port, Andhra Pradesh. Groin is a short wall constructed with concrete or wood perpendicular to shoreline from coast to low water level to trap sand and build up a beach. There is generally a series of walls that prevent erosion by trapping the sediments in the direction of advancement of longshore drift. Sand accumulates on the up current side of the groin in relation to the longshore current, as you can see in this figure. Jetties are long walls extending from shore at the mouths of harbors. They are constructed of boulders to protect entrance of harbor from waves and current erosion and or filling with sand. One such jetties of Visakhapatnam port is shown in this figure. Let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. We first discussed about coastal zone and its significance. Then we discussed about the processes that are responsible for shaping up coast. Then we discussed about the erosional processes and the resultant landforms, and then the positional processes and the resulting landforms. Then we discussed about the coast, their types and characteristics of Indian coast, and lastly we discussed about coastal protection measures. Thank you.